This is DW News live from Berlin. History made today here in Europe. The European Parliament approving the Artificial Intelligence Act, the first of its kind in the world. It's designed to protect people from the risk of a technology developing at breakneck speed. Also coming up tonight is time running out for TikTok in the United States. Lawmakers have approved a bill that could ban the social media platform if it refuses to sever all ties with the Chinese government. And efforts to get aid into Gaza, they are picking up. Preparations are underway for a second aid shipment to depart from Cyprus with much needed supplies. And a close ally of the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny attacked with a hammer in Lithuania, and he's pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin. I'm Brent Goff. To our viewers watching on PBS in the United States and to all of you around the world, welcome. High-tech history was made in Europe today. Lawmakers in the European Parliament approved the world's first ever legal framework on artificial intelligence. It aims to balance the safety and reliability of AI use for people across Europe, at the same time fostering AI's development in various industries. Now, this act has been 5 years in the making, and it could be precedent-setting for countries struggling to control AI's rapid advancement. Daniel Privatera is the executive director at the Kira Center for AI Risks. I asked him, does Europe's Artificial Intelligence Act, does it tackle the biggest risk posed by AI to people?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think so. It tackles the risks that we're facing today, at least when it comes to AI. I'm not sure it will get us all the way through AI safety forever. I think more will need to follow, but it's definitely a historical day today. This is, as you just said, the world's first comprehensive AI regulation. And I think it turned out surprisingly well. It's not perfect, but the EU did a pretty good job here, I think, at reconciling different needs and requirements that different stakeholder groups had. So there is a need for innovation. We need to stay competitive as Europeans, but we also want safety, and we don't want to compromise on that. And I think the law does a good job at that overall.
Well, talk me through this. Help us understand exactly how are people being protected now by what was passed today?
Right. So originally, this law, the AI Act, was conceived of as a purely sort of user-focused or use-specific law. So there are a lot of different rules for AI in medicine, AI in law, and AI in all these very different specific sectors. And you can argue about whether in some cases it's a bit of over-regulation or under-regulation, but I think overall it's a clear commitment to protecting users in the EU. And then I think we've been very clever as Europeans to also add later on rules for general purpose models. So these are the chat GPTs of this world that just have been taking the world by storm. And we added rules for these general models that don't really fit in any of these use categories because they're so general and so broad. They're very potent, and that means they can also lead to a lot of risks because they're so strong and potent. And I think it's great that the AI Act has binding requirements for the developers of these general models as well.
Yeah, you speak of overregulation. I'm sure you would be suspicious of anyone who is out right now saying that this is overregulation, because this is actually the first attempt at any regulation of AI. And I'm wondering, because of this, is big tech, in your opinion, likely to comply with these regulations, or do you foresee big tech trying to find loopholes and ways to circumvent the regulations?
Oh, I mean, I certainly think I expect them to try and look for ways to, keep the compliance costs as small as possible for them. But they're going to have a hard time because this, as you said, is binding. It's hard law now. And if companies are not going to comply with it, they will have to pay fines. So yes, I expect sort of both overall efforts to compliance, but also big tech and companies in general, as it's kind of natural for them to look for loopholes. A lot will come down now to the implementation phase that is basically beginning now. So that means translating the fairly high level language of the law as it's been passed into very concrete and detailed standards that tell companies exactly what they have to comply with. And I think we need to make sure that this standard setting phase, this implementation phase that's coming now, goes well. So only first half of the homework that we've done, and there's more to come.
Yeah, it's definitely new territory for everyone. Daniel Privater with the Kira Center for AI Risks and Impacts, talking with us about this groundbreaking, the Artificial Intelligence Act here in the European Union, the first of its kind in the world. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you.
And on the other side of the Atlantic, American lawmakers were also debating some controversial high-tech legislation. The U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed a bill today that could lead to a ban of the social media platform TikTok. Lawmakers have long had concerns about the app's Chinese owner, ByteDance, and the Chinese government's ability to demand user data, claiming that TikTok could pose a threat to national security.
TikTok's future in the United States is in jeopardy. The U.S. House of Representatives has given its owner, ByteDance, an ultimatum: divest from the app within 6 months or risk a ban across all U.S. devices. Approved by the House, the bill now goes to the Senate, where its fate is uncertain. It's a rare occasion where a piece of legislation has strong bipartisan support, as well as opposition.
Any ban on TikTok is not just banning the freedom of expression. You are literally causing huge harm to our national economy. We have small business owners that are here and small business owners from across the country that use TikTok.
An estimated 170 million TikTok users are based in the U.S. Its reach is part of the reason why intelligence officials are concerned. The head of the FBI and CIA have warned that China could use it to influence U.S. public opinion, and that it could compel ByteDance to hand over data on its users. There have been no reports of Beijing having done this, but the possibility of it happening has prompted lawmakers to take action. ByteDance denies any connection to the Chinese government. China is warning the U.S. that the ban will come back to bite it. President Biden, who joined the app last month, says he will sign the ban if it passes the Senate and ends up on his desk.
Well, I'm joined now by my colleague, our Washington correspondent, Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber. He's been following this story for us. Benjamin, so the House overwhelmingly approved this legislation. What's been the reaction to that first?
There have been mixed reactions, and one of them, something that we've heard many times, is surprise over how quickly this went. Not just the bipartisan support, a super majority that both Democrats and Republicans supported, but also this bill was introduced only a little bit more than a week ago. It passed a committee 50-0, so everyone that was on this panel on the committee in the House of Representatives said, yes, we will move this to the floor. And from the reactions, there are also different words that are being used. The critics call this a ban already, but those who are supporting it say this is not yet a ban, this is a forced sale. It has to pass the Senate first, then it needs to be signed by President Biden. He said that he would do it, and then the clock would be ticking for the parent company of TikTok.
That's right. President Biden saying he would sign the legislation if it makes it to his desk, but of course it has to be passed by the U.S. Senate first. What do we know about the chances of that happening?
There's definitely a lot of pressure because so many in the House of Representatives supported that. And we will see until this vote that there will definitely be more lobbying also from TikTok, who have been on one side sending out push notifications for users telling to call Congress people, have been flying into, so also some influencers that have been here have been pressing. That's also quite interesting that they send influencers and not CEOs or high management of TikTok to press and to say that that's important. And that's also how TikTok reacted to it. We just heard that in the report of the small businesses, how many people are actually using the app here. TikTok quickly tweeted out, and they said, Senate hopefully will consider the facts, listen to the constituents, and realize the impact of the economy. 7 million small businesses and 170 million Americans who use the service.
Yeah, and this legislation, Benjamin, originally was pushed and endorsed by former U.S. President Donald Trump. He has since changed his stance. What more do we know about that?
Absolutely. That was in 2020, where he also signed an executive order giving the parent company only a few days. There were also some legal challenges, legal battles on both sides. But now he said that it would not be the right sign to ban TikTok. There have been media reports that he changed his mind after meeting a mega donor for the Trump campaign, who also has stakes on TikTok. But it's interesting to see how different the approach from Joe Biden and from Donald Trump is. And something that we also just heard in the report, the Biden campaign joined TikTok only a month ago, less than a month ago, and he said that he would sign it if it passes the Senate, and then it would take the next step, putting more pressure on the parent company of TikTok.
Yeah, interesting point there. DW's Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber with the latest in Washington. Benjamin, thank you. Now to the Middle East. International efforts to get humanitarian aid into Gaza are ramping up. A second ship is preparing to sail from Cyprus to the Gaza Strip, loaded with supplies. A first ship carrying about 200 tons of food is just hours away from landing. Large parts of Gaza have been devastated since Israel launched its military offensive in response to the October 7th terror attacks by Hamas.
The aftermath of months-long fighting in Khan Yunis. Palestinians are slowly returning to this residential complex, now in ruins, as Israeli ground forces withdrew from the area. Most of them have lost their homes and have loved ones missing.
I ran to bring food and water for my children to feed them. My husband is not here. He was taken by the army. Unfortunately, I found the whole tower gone and on fire, as you can see.
Further south in Rafah, the UN agency helping Palestinian refugees said their aid facility was hit by Israeli forces. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says several people were killed and dozens wounded.
This is forbidden. We're an international institution. All of this is for people. We stopped returning to our homes. We work day and night to serve refugees. It's forbidden. Look, what is this? We take all of this to the elderly and children. What is this?
The attack has compounded the despair of many Gazans who are already suffering amid severe shortages of food and basic supplies.
People came here to get aid, to get food, to get their daily meals. It's Ramadan. How can they bombard us during the month of Ramadan?
Israel is facing criticism for allegedly blocking humanitarian aid deliveries into the Gaza Strip, a claim Israeli authorities have repeatedly denied. The UN is warning of the imminent risk of famine.
Here's a look now at some of the other stories that are making headlines around the world. A 15-year-old Palestinian was shot and killed by Israel Defense Force troops after he stabbed and wounded 2 security guards at an Israeli checkpoint outside Jerusalem. According to media reports, the youth arrived at the checkpoint on a bicycle and drew a knife when guards tried to search him. The International Energy Agency says methane emissions from the energy sector hit a near-record high last year. Large methane plumes, like you see there, from leaky fossil fuel infrastructure jumped by 50% compared with 2022. Methane is responsible for around a third of the rise in global temperatures since pre-industrial times. Tesla boss Elon Musk paid a visit to his production plant outside Berlin today to mark the factory going back online following a suspected arson attack. Production at the electric car maker's first European plant was halted for nearly a week after an electricity pylon was damaged by fire. Russian President Vladimir Putin says that he will deploy troops and weapons on the border with Finland now that it has joined NATO. In response, Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said that Russia appeared to be preparing for a long conflict with the West. Previously neutral, Finland joined NATO last year in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, tonight, Lithuania is blaming the Kremlin for an attack on a close ally of the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Activist Leonid Volkov was attacked outside his home in Vilnius by an assailant with a meat hammer. The 43-year-old is the former chief of staff to Alexei Navalny. He now lives in exile in Lithuania.
A defiant Leonid Volkov described the moment he was attacked with a hammer outside his home.
A person attacked me with a meat hammer right outside my house in the yard. Hit my leg around 15 times. Somehow the leg remained intact. It hurts to walk, but they say there is no fracture. But my arm is broken. Well, that will heal with time. But the main thing is we will work and we will not give up.
The incident sparked an uproar from the Lithuanian government. Its intelligence service says it is highly likely that Russia is behind the attack.
There is no doubt that these things are planned. Look at the recent increase in desecration of the Lithuanian flag, incidents with monuments. All of this adds up to a common set of questions, incidents where it's clearly seen that such things are planned. We should not be surprised here, but I want to make it very clear. The authorities will assess, investigate, and hopefully find the guilty persons. And I can only say one thing to Putin. Nobody here is afraid of you.
The 43-year-old Volkov is among Russia's most prominent opposition figures. He served as Navalny's chief of staff, who died suddenly in a Russian prison last month. Volkov left Russia in 2019 under pressure from the authorities. After his discharge from the hospital, he vowed to continue his struggle against the Russian president.
Well, DW's Constantine Aer is following this story for us in Vilnius. I spoke with him earlier and I asked him, who is Leonid Volkov and why is he in Lithuania?
Well, ally is probably not an exact description. In fact, he was a number 2 person in the whole Navalny organization, now by the feat of being its main manager, its main organizer, the main fundraiser. He's definitely a key figure in basically the continuing fights of the Navalny team, as well as his widow, Yulia Navalny. Mm-hmm. He is in Lithuania for quite a long time because of threats from the Russian government, because of basically warrants issued by the Russian government against him. Basically, I would say a large number of Navalny's people are here in Lithuania, in the capital Vilnius, and the Lithuanian authorities were, well, I would say very straightforward in actually offering full protection to them and their families.
Volkov says that Russia is responsible for this attack. The Lithuanian intelligence agency also says that the attack was probably, and I'm quoting here, Russian organized and implemented. I mean, what more do we know about this? What's your take on it?
Well, not much. We do know that Volkov was attacked at around about 10 p.m. last night near his home in a very sort of nice, leafy suburb of Vilnius. The attackers, we are not sure whether there were 2 or only 1. Volkov's wife said that she seems to have seen 2, but of course they have to talk to police about that. What is interesting, Brett, is that one of Russian nationalist bloggers, actually not living in Russia, very famous for his very nationalist and misogynistic views, published in his Telegram channel screenshots of someone essentially telling him that he or she tracked Volkov and showing pictures surreptitiously taken of Volkov in Vilnius airport at not far from the car park where he took his hired car. So there are some versions of who could have done it. The assumption is that these people are somehow Kremlin connected or wanted to please the Kremlin. But the Lithuanian police tells us here that we should wait until they investigate deeper. They've thrown massive resources, as far as I know, at the investigation.
DW Russia analyst Constantine Aer. As always, Constantine, we appreciate your analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
More protests have broken out in Haiti over a plan by Caribbean nations to revamp the country's leadership. On Wednesday, demonstrators tried to block busy streets in the capital, Port-au-Prince. They say they are opposed to foreigners interfering in the country's politics. U.S. and Caribbean officials want to appoint a new transitional government for the country. Haiti's prime minister has promised to resign. The European Union, meanwhile, says that it will send humanitarian aid worth 20 million euros to the country. Haiti is the Caribbean's third largest country and is bordered to the east by the Dominican Republic. It is no stranger to unrest, but with gangs now in control of much of the capital, there are fears that the nation could spiral into a wider civil war.
This man is increasingly calling the shots in Haiti. Gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, nicknamed Barbecue. A former police officer, he's a brutal mobster who has voiced admiration for Haiti's former dictatorship. He heads up an alliance of gangs called the G9. Gang violence has killed thousands in Haiti. He says he's fighting for the poor and against government corruption. But in reality, gang turf wars have forced hundreds of thousands from their homes, cut off food supplies, and fueled a humanitarian crisis. Haiti is desperately poor. Many are still living in makeshift accommodation put up after the devastating earthquake in 2010. That quake killed more than 200,000 people, according to government figures. At the time, Haiti had only been a democracy for 20 years and lacked a stable government. A hurricane followed, destroying more homes. With a lack of law and order, gangs began to flourish. In 2017, Jovenel Moïse was elected president. His government is said to have supported Cherizier and the G9 gangs. So all the while, the gangs were growing stronger. But 4 years later, in 2021, President Moïse was assassinated, triggering Haiti's descent into chaos. That was when Ariel Henry took over as acting prime minister. He promised to hold presidential elections, but repeatedly postponed the ballot. In the power vacuum, gang violence increased, and Henry's government steadily lost control. Protesters called for Henry to step down. Then, in September last year, Cherizier seized the initiative.
We are launching a fight to overturn Henry's government in any way possible.
At the end of February, the G9 gangs seized control of Haiti's international airports, while Henry was abroad. It effectively barred his return. It's not clear if Cherizier has his own ambitions for power. But what is clear, any new government in Haiti will have to deal with the gangs, who are a force to be reckoned with.
Journalist Witzer Persson told me more about the humanitarian and security situation in Haiti.
More than 300,000 people were forced by armed gangs to leave their homes inside of the country. Those people live in makeshift camps in precarious conditions. They could not find food, purified water, and medications. In Port-au-Prince, more than 160,000 of people have left their homes since August 2022.
The European Union today announced that it will send aid worth 20 million euros to Haiti. What difference will these 20 million euros make on the ground?
I believe it is urgent at the moment to assist people in need inside of the country, particularly in Port-au-Prince. However, it will require leadership to coordinate aid and help identify the real needs of those people. Without this, the impact of people's lives may not be effective.
Talk to me about the gangs, these powerful gangs in Haiti. They have called for the prime minister to step down. The prime minister has announced that he will do that. So what are the gangs now saying about what's happening today?
Of course, they have demands, but it must be understood that it's not only about what the gangs want, because there is the population who wants their conditions to change. And even if they haven't agreed on everything, there is a political class trying to find a solution. We are awaiting the outcome of the discussions in the next few hours to know what will happen in the next few days.
The gangs, we know, thrive in a political vacuum, the vacuum that was left after the assassination of President Moïse almost 3 years ago. Is anything or anyone in sight that could fill that power vacuum?
Really, the Prime Minister did not meet the expectations on this point. For now, discussions have been initiated among the stakeholders to fill the void, but it is still uncertain whether this will succeed in filling the gap in the country.
Okay, journalist Vitzer Pesson joining us tonight from Haiti. Vitzer, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we saw at the beginning of our program, artificial intelligence promises many innovations, both welcomed, some feared. Researchers at a university in Australia have developed an AI application that they hope will benefit people with dementia. It's called Viv, a personality that serves as a companion for those with memory problems. It's currently being tested at a care home in Sydney, where it comforts patients who are feeling depressed. AI companions such as Viv are not meant to replace human caregivers, but rather to provide additional support.
Some days I feel a bit forgetful.
All right, here's a reminder now of our top stories on this Wednesday. Lawmakers in the European Parliament have approved the world's first ever legal framework on artificial intelligence. It aims to balance safety and reliability while also fostering AI's development in industries. The law has been 5 years in the making. It could set a global precedent. And lawmakers in the U.S. House of Representatives have overwhelmingly passed a bill that could lead to a ban of TikTok. Lawmakers have long raised concerns about the app, claiming TikTok could pose a threat to national security. And the World Food Program says that it has delivered enough food for 25,000 people into northern Gaza. It was dispatched in a convoy of 6 UN aid trucks, allowed to enter the territory via a new road crossing. And don't forget, you can always get DW News on the go. Just download our app from Google Play or from the App Store. That will give you access to all of the latest news from around the world, as well as push notifications for any breaking news in real time. I'm Brent Goff. You're watching DW News. After a short break, I'll be back to take you through the day. Tonight, attempts to tame high tech here in Europe and in the United States. We'll be right back.